Yo, what is up everyone? Randy here. Today we're going to be talking about how you can take more dramatic landscapes like this, and this. So, let's get into it. Alright guys, so today's tip is really pretty simple, but it's one of those things that can take your images to a whole nother level. Typically you have a landscape in front of you and you kind of have the urge naturally to want to capture the whole thing, so you start shooting wide. But really, if you start shooting more zoomed in focal lengths, you're going to be able to isolate part of that landscape and it's going to make everything more dramatic. So if you have something in the foreground and then you have your background, it's going to compress the whole image and you're going to be able to just get this way more dramatic look. And I think the best way to kind of really explain it is to hop into the computer real quick and look at some images. So this first image was taken at 58 millimeters, 58 millimeters at f7.1. And you can see how this gives you kind of a more wide angle look. I get a little bit of this foreground in here with the snow, and that kind of leads you right in. And this is actually a composition that I do really like. But as we keep going and we step up into the focal lengths, so we can see this image, this was taken at 135 millimeters, and you can immediately see how it just brings you closer and it kind of compresses these two rock formations so that they're a little bit closer. So if you look at them back here again, those are pretty far out in the distance, and as soon as we kind of step it into 135 millimeters, you immediately see how everything just gets a little bit more compressed, how you can start to make out those lines in the background and how these two things just suddenly appear really big and really prominent in the whole picture. And then this was taken at 202 millimeters, and this is the one where you really start to see the difference. So just as a note, I was standing in the same spot when I took all three of these pictures, so I didn't move any closer or anything. Just standing in the same spot, I switched from my 24 to 70 lens, and then I put on my 135 millimeter f2, and that's how I took this. And then I shoot on a Sony a7R2, so I put my a7R2 into crop sensor mode, and that is how I got to this 202 millimeter frame. So you can really just see the progression as you go from this first one all the way to this last one. You see how using these more zoomed in focal lengths, I was able to kind of just pick out one little part of my entire first composition here, where in this first one I had this bush with the snow in the foreground, and then into this little gorge, and then back into that little rock formation. But the thing that interested me when I saw this was this little rock island out here. So by zooming in, I'm able to not only get that way closer, but everything gets compressed. And then look, you're starting to see these canyons and mountains that are in the background as well. If we take a look at this one, this was up at Banff National Park, and this was taken at 31 millimeters, and we were just driving around to our location. We were on our way to Peyto Lake when we saw this glacier and this little lake down here with all these pine trees. So we decided to just pull over and try to grab a quick picture. And as I took a few of these, I kind of realized that I wanted my mountains to appear a little bigger, and I wanted more emphasis on that glacier. So this was the first shot I took at 31 millimeters, and it's, as you can see, it kind of doesn't really have too big of a focus. You don't really know what to focus on in this image. It just has a little bit of everything. But if we go to this next one, so this was taken at 64 millimeters, and you can instantly see just how much more dramatic this one is. So these glaciers just got way bigger in the composition. Now they're taking up a significant amount of room compared to this one where it was just this little spot. So they're taking up more room here. These mountains are taking up more of the frame than they were before. We're kind of just a little bit more zoomed in, and we're starting to get a better glimpse of this little lake as we zoomed in and as we cropped away some of these trees from this previous composition. See, so this last one is just a little noisy for me. I like mine to be a little bit more simple, so zooming in allowed me to get a more minimalistic look, but also kind of get more details into the glacier and into these back set of pine trees. And then this third one, this was taken at 135 millimeters, so this was just more to focus on the glacier that you can see in this picture as well. It's just this back glacier. So at 135 millimeters, this really let me get something that was pretty minimalist, and just more so I was focusing on the form and what kind of cool shapes I could find in the mountain. Anyways, that pretty much is it for today. The tip is to shoot your landscapes a little bit more zoomed in If you can get out, go take some pictures, try to just zoom in a little more instead of shooting wide if you're just constantly shooting wide, and see what you can do, see what you can pick out like I did here, where I have this whole landscape and I had, all these canyons over here and all these formations, and I kind of just isolated it to this little spot right here and got this. So just kind of start going out, start trying to pick out little small things in the grand composition, and then zoom in and see what you can do. So until next time.